Welcome to today's TENS webinar for the month of June. We are looking at data representation, algorithms and cryptography. And I will introduce the presenters in a moment, but before I do so, we will start today's session with our karakia. Maori ora kia mātou, arahina mātou ia mātou mahi, ki mihia he huarahi mō te kōpapa o te mātauranga hangarau. Awhina atu, awhina mai. Te po e here ni ia mātou, huie, taikie. So once again, welcome to our session for today. Before we get into the actual content of the webinar, just so people know, this webinar is being recorded and will be placed live on our TENS YouTube channel afterwards, so you can watch it to your heart's content as many times as you'd like to. We also will be having a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you do have any questions to our awesome presenters today, please pop them into the question box, the Q&A section, and we will make sure that we answer any questions that you have. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce some amazing people from Grok Academy. We have the lovely Julie and Jen here, who are actually talking to us from Australia at the moment. They're overseas. And so we're very, very lucky that they have given us some time in their extremely hectic schedule today to join us for our TENS webinar. So Julie has been involved in digital technologies education for over 30 years and is passionate about motivating students to pursue career pathways in this area through exposing them to engaging learning opportunities. She was on the team that developed the current digital technologies curriculum in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and has extensive experience in standards writing, leading assessment panels and educational resource development. Julie has supported teachers through workshop facilitation, serving in various subject association roles, including the president of DUTA, so that's Digital Technology Teachers Aotearoa, and as a curriculum lecturer for the University of Otago Masters of Education programme. She was awarded the Ali Achievers Teacher of Influence Award by DUTA and the IT Professionals NZ, as well as the TENS Award for Subject Leadership in Technology Education. Jen has been a dedicated and passionate teacher and educational leader for over 25 years. She enjoys all aspects of innovative curriculum design, as well as its documentation, implementation, monitoring, reporting, and evaluation. She has designed core learning tasks focusing on 21st century skills and current learning pedagogies, and can creatively implement new and current learning technologies and strategies into the modern day classroom. Although relatively new to digital technologies, Jen is an enthusiastic and motivated learner and passionate about integrating innovative approaches, problem solving and design thinking into digital technologies teaching and learning across the curriculum. And with that awesome introduction, without any more ado, I'm going to jump off the screen and leave it to the ladies here from Grok, and we'll see you at the other side.
Okay. I will just share my screen, get this going. Here we go.
Thank you, Sarah, for that introduction. And Jen and I will do a little bit more, but just that we work together as a team, even though we work across the Tasman from one another, but we are team members together. So kia ora koutou no tahuna aho, although today I'm coming to you from Sydney. Ko kararau te mona, ko whakatipu te roto, very near to Sarah, the lovely Sarah. Ko Julie McMahon, toko ingoa, he kaimahi aho I Grok Academy, tēnā koutou katoa.
Beautiful. An acknowledgement of country in Australia is an act of respect towards Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, the First Nations people of Australia. In case you're not aware of what we currently do in Australia, we're far behind New Zealand, but we're getting a little bit closer. We at Grok Academy are committed to working and reconciling with First Nations people around the world. And we wish to acknowledge the ongoing physical and spiritual connections of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples on the land from which I'm presenting today. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands where we are currently the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I also pay my respects to the elders, both past, present, and emerging.
So Grok Academy, in case you haven't heard of us, we're a non-profit charity. We're really dedicated to bringing and empowering teachers and learners with digital technologies and digital literacy skills. And we're really passionate about increasing diversity in technology. So one of the ways we can do that is removing barriers to access. So all of the resources we're going to talk about today are free. And we also have made them all available both in English and Te Reo Māori so that we can remove language as well as monetary barriers for educators. We have recently been awarded a few awards for our program. So at the end of last year, we were the best program for young individuals by that was for the New Zealand Women in Security Awards, and also for empowering the Te Reo Māori within the Matahiko space. We had, alongside Tata Aho Core Education, were given the Digital Award. And that is great because through this program, we're also helping to innovate new kupu in Te Reo Māori and bring that. And we've reached over 20,000 students so far with this program.
So what is the program? Our cybersecurity online courses have been developed to provide a fun and engaging way for students to explore important cybersecurity concepts and ideas. And through raising the awareness, students develop their practical skills to protect their data and their online presence. The courses have been developed by our educators at Grok with advice and support from some of the industry professionals that work with our generous sponsors. And you can see the sponsors on the bottom of that slide. So without them, the program would not exist. The courses are free, as Julie outlined, for all students, thanks to all of the sponsors, both from New Zealand and Australia. And they cover technical and non-technical aspects of cybersecurity to cater for all learners. They're presented, as Julie said, in both English and Te Reo Māori to allow all learners to learn in their language. The problems are also auto-marked to allow teachers to concentrate on the students and the teaching. The platform provides various ways to help teachers to deliver the content, and that's what we'll be covering today. The first of the courses in the program was Information, Privacy and Security, and there are two different levels, years 6 to 8 and 9 to 13. And they look at things like how we share information on the web, secure passwords, and how to avoid phishing and scams. The second course that was developed is Web Application Security, and that looks at some of the features of web applications and how we can make sure that the applications that we use are secure. Students can take the role of a white hat hacker and also look at the different types of authentication and authorization when accessing web applications. And the third course, Cryptography, and that's the course that we're going to be looking at in much more depth right now. Our aim for this webinar is to discuss links to the curriculum in the cryptography course in terms of algorithms and data representation, because it might not be immediately obvious that that's what the concepts are that are covered in this course. So we look at how the topic of cryptography allows us to apply these concepts to everyday tasks. If we're looking at the Grok homepage, I'll just switch over, hopefully this, there we go, smooth as anything. We look at the Grok homepage with, this is the course page. We can find the course. The quickest way for you in New Zealand to find it would be to click this filter. And then the cybersecurity courses that are filtered that way are here. And we can click on Cyber Skills, Cryptography. On the first page, it goes into a bit of detail about what the course covers. And then the welcome page, I just click on here. This is the first page of the course, and just to show you a little bit about the platform, we have the content in the middle. We have some teacher notes when they're applicable on all of the different pages. And on this first page too, there's also a link to a cacao guide. And I probably said that brutally wrong. I do apologise. Which also has a lot of information about curriculum links, extra activities that you can do in the classroom, unplugged activities, how you can support the learning of the course as you go along, so you can be involved with the students as they're learning the content. I know you can't read that as I'm flicking through, but you can see here that each of the, when I get down there, each of the modules has a section. This is what I was looking for, with some other activities that you can do alongside those. There we go.
So, and we will be putting up at the end a slide of how you can register if you're not already registered on Grok Academy. And the other thing I just wanted to go is, since Jen was kind of talking about like seeing the teacher dashboard, we run onboarding webinars, like short 15-minute webinars that our support people show you how to get your students on the platform, how to register, how to create a course. So that's also just to help teachers, but we're just covering this course and the curriculum links in this session. So when you're doing anything in the classroom and you have precious time available, you want to make sure that what you're doing actually aligns to some curriculum ideas. So, if you look at the significant learning in the digital technologies curriculum, that students really need to learn about their responsibility to protect the digital resources. And also that they are thinking about those ethical and ethical needs around use of data when they're developing them. So through our exploration of cryptographic techniques in this course, they're really developing their own understandings of how data is stored and transmitted securely. And then how hackers can gain access to data if the encryption algorithms aren't secure and or easy to decode. So that helps them to understand that responsibility. And if they go in to be developers, what are those things that they might need to take into account so that they're really developing secure apps in the future, but also what are other people's responsibility when they're developing things that we use every day in helping keep us secure.
So we're going to show you some screenshots of how we teach the various cryptography concepts. And throughout the course, we look at why it's important to understand the concepts that underpin cryptography methods and how they're actually used to keep our data private. So if we have a look at, oops, sorry, this is very touchy. I'm in a different environment. Here we go. Looks better. So if we have a look, this video covers how the data is sent and received. This is one of the first pages of the course. And that's critical, of course, in students understanding how we can protect the data. Then the first problem that we come across starts to get students to think about how we can encode and decode messages. So starting off the initial problem-solving skills, as well as an initial start into how the course will progress and the skills that they will need. So this question here is one very simple one, just to get them thinking about what might this code be. We have an alphabet that has 26 letters, and so it's one of the, you think, okay, well, what's the 8th letter of the alphabet? And we can have a little bit of a look here about how the automatic marker works, and a previously solved solution using that information, and hopefully that, oh, I got it right last time. I need to reset that one. I'm sorry about that. When you look at the examples too often, that will mark and give you a congratulations code. So that's a very simple example of how the automatic marker works.
And the reason that came up for Jen, what we have, if you keep trying to resubmit the exact same answer, it gives you a little bit message that say your answer hasn't changed. So,
that's right.
Yeah, and can you just go back to that other page and click on the teacher notes, maybe the teacher notes tab? Well, we have it up. So for teachers who are following along, besides the notes and the Kayako guide, we also have solutions for every problem so that the students don't see it, but you as a teacher will always see the solution so that you don't have to be the expert and you can look through that. Yeah. And maybe some more information on that for each one.
Okay.
And then more around the curriculum. So again, we just looked at the technology learning area and the DDDO strand, but within computational thinking for digital technologies, the students should be able to decompose an algorithm independently and decompose problems into algorithms, and also how computers store more complex type of data. So there's a focus in here on analyzing cryptographic algorithms, and we look at them for their complexity and how that relates to security, but as well as we take them through steps of how do you break down a problem into steps and have them do some composing algorithms like in Parsons problems, and Jen will show you that in a minute. And then we also look at how numbers, characters, images, sounds are stored using binary digits, and then how that relates to cryptographic algorithms.
So starting to look at some of those concepts, when presenting information activities around these, we use a variety of activities and visual representations to teach these concepts. So this helps to ensure that a variety of learners are able to grasp the concepts and apply them to the problems. So you have different visual learners and audio. The video talks about the decimal number system compared with the base 2 number system. And then we have some widgets and sliders, and they teach counting in binary and allow students to take as much time as they need to grasp the concepts. So they can stick with the slider until they fully understand what's happening there. And then the problems at the end, then they consolidate that knowledge and have a chance to check their understanding. So if we have a look at those in the platform, we can see here that the binary digit slider allows us to experiment with the different numbers and what that might mean. So knowing that the light on would be a 1 and an off would be a 0, they can click through and start to think about what happens as we progress from 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. And then there's some little questions down here that we call Grok steps that allow them to test that. So the binary for the number 8 is, that you might encourage the students to think about this before they click on here and just go, okay, well, that's 1, 0, 0. And so then they can click on that. And again, it's a simple form of automatic marking that allows them to move on with the course. You can see I'm a very clever student, and down the left I have a lot of these green pips, but these will only go green as the students start to understand and go through the content on each slide. So you can easily see that if a student is asking about a problem here hopefully you can see that right in the left-hand side. They're working on this problem and then none of these are green. They've tried to go to the problem before actually reading the content. So that's one way that you can ensure that students are actually going through the content first to make sure. And then the next one, I think Julie was going to talk about this widget here.
So then we have another way. So, we did the very visual, and then we're looking at a widget where the students are going from the place value to the binary, and as they click through, so as you increase the decimal number, it's actually showing how that converts in binary, and it's doing the kind of totaling for them. Some of you may have seen the manual binary pianos that the CS Field Guide has supported. So this is just another representation so they see it. And actually, if they click all the way through, which we won't do today, Jen, you can figure out what happens when they run out of 8 bits and like what's the limitation for a byte. And there's a little bit of an Easter egg at the end of that one. And again, at the bottom, just like Jen showed before, they can go through and they can think about it, but then they can look at the binary representation of different numbers. And I think the last question, which I can't see at the bottom, asked them then what's the largest decimal number that can be made using just 1 byte. And that will relate to character representation later. Yes. Okay.
Oh.
And then, so at first, we're just looking at, how data is represented and how it's stored. And then we start looking at the constraints of the ASCII number system. So the ASCII representation system, so we can only store 1 byte worth of information. That was a little bit of the exploration. And then what's that limit? So if we want to represent, for example, more world languages, including Te Reo Māori macrons, then we're limited by 1 byte. So then we explore, then we get to explore how the Unicode standard was developed so that we can have more world languages represented, and also the emoji characters. So we let them look how emojis are stored. And then we start exploring digital images. So we look at that representation and how each channel, each color channel has 1 byte, and how by combining just 3 bytes worth of information in 3 color channels, we can then have millions and millions of colors, more than the human eye can detect. So then we get into, because we can't tell the difference, so we get them looking at just like changing little bits of color, and you really can't see a difference to the human eye. Then that leads into cryptography. I think we'll go, which one do we go? The data hiding in the image. Sorry, the one.
This one?
Before, I think we were going to look at that one. So, oops. So here we just say, what happens if we turn off the 100, like a high bit? So if we turn off the high bit, what might happen? So here, if we do that, it's going to change to a dark red. So that's the answer, but they can look. So they see that if we want to hide data, if we change a high bit, it's pretty apparent. But then what's happening if we only change the ones bit, like with less information stored in that, and it's going to look pretty much the same. And so then we're thinking about where could we hide information within data. And then it's the problem, I think.
And hopefully it's that one. Yeah.
Yes. So to explore that through, then we get them to explore that through a problem. And I think, Jen, you were going to talk about that.
So once students have learnt about the bits and images, they've given problems where they need to find the message. So from their learning, as Julie mentioned, that it's probably hidden in the lower bits. So we can click through, we might take away 2 whole channels, and then we predict that the message might appear once we're in the lower bits. So as we click all of the bits off, we get a solution to part of this problem here. So obviously the date here, we would write in November 10. So we've still got to find some others. So we're just using logical deduction to know that perhaps maybe there's one in each of the channels. There might not be, but if we turn off those bits, and then, you know, there's another hidden message in the lower bits of that channel. And then, so we've got our answer to the meeting place. And then let's have a look in the red channel, and there we have our time. So the students can explore how to find those messages hidden inside those images.
And then we have another module that more learning that looks around how audio is stored digitally. So again, that data representation. And when students are learning through our learning slides how audio files are converted from an analog signal into a digital signal, and then the effects of different sampling rates on sound quality and file size. So they start learning about all of that and what happens, you know, what's that effect even on streaming data. Like if we want to have a really high file size, then we're going to have to be streaming high amounts of data, and then that might be slower. And then the final thing, that putting it all together once they've learned how to visualize the data and how we can see different wavelengths. And you might be using Audacity in your classroom already, and it's free to download. And then we also show them an online analyzer, and then they go to a problem around that.
And then,
yeah,
so they can see the problem.
Yeah, we won't.
We go back. No, we won't go through that problem.
Yeah, we won't go through the whole problem because they need to download the file. But you can see on that example, like they can see how we can hide a message based in different frequencies, and then they have to uncover another message hidden in a different frequency.
Oh, I keep losing my mouse. So now that we've looked at data representation, we start to explore problem decomposition and algorithms. So while keeping cryptography as the authentic context and following on with that theme, students are led through a series of activities with increasing complexity. So they start by learning, doing some learning around problem decomposition and why it's important. And then they're asked to decompose a problem and remove anything unnecessary from a list. So there's a format of question on the platform that allows them to choose the important information. The next two problems ask students to order these. So the Parsons problems, I'll show you an example in a minute, allow us to ask the students to order things in a specific way. And then the second one is a little bit more complex using pseudocode. And lastly, they put the steps together in a problem to write an encryption algorithm for a rotation cipher. So they're using those skills still with the basis of cryptography. I'll show you a Parsons problem. Hopefully it's the next one here. So here we just have the series of tasks that we'd like them to order, and then they simply pull them over to the order that they think. So if we probably get the message, find the letter in each message, store the, hopefully that's correct. I think it probably is close. It might be the same as my last submission. No, well done. So again, this is a simple way that we can use the tools of the platform to be able to test that learning.
And Jen, can you go back to the platform?
Yes.
And just go to the last one in that section after the diamond, after the problem.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
So in this course, we do not expect any programming knowledge in Python, but a lot of for the curriculum, but a lot of teachers might be teaching Python, and we've got different courses in Python. But what we do show, so when we go through an algorithm, like for a particular cipher, and they've decomposed it, they've built the algorithm, we show what it would also look like in code. And they get to experiment with what it would look like in code. So that's just following on from the standard, you know, from our progress outcomes, saying that they'll decompose problems, put them in algorithms, and then be able to put those into a program. So we show them that, and it's a way for you to do that in the classroom if you want to, but it's not mandatory that programming is part of this course. Okay, so now once they have an understanding of the represented data, they have some simple techniques for encoding data. Then we look at different algorithms and to encode and decode data. They are able to explore in these how the complexity of an algorithm. So that's part of the progress outcomes as well. Like, what's the relationship between the complexity of an algorithm and the outcome? And here we're saying that the more complex an algorithm is for a cryptographic cipher, then the harder it is to hack. And the harder it is to get access to your information. And so we have interactive widgets to show them. We have visualizations to help them understand it. And there's a real focus here on problem solving. So they, when they get into this section, we have different methods where they're actually trying to think, how would somebody approach solving this cipher, and how could people get access to your information? So we have some slides to show those.
Yes, so to explore the rotation cipher, there's a couple of widgets here and problems to aid understanding. I'll just open up this. Whoop. Why did that do that? Sorry about that. So with this, every time I look over there, it's very touchy. With this widget, we demonstrate to students how the alphabet rotates with different keys. So they can visualize the effect on the message as the alphabet rotates. So as the key increases one, they can just see and visualize what happens to each of the letters in that code when we use a different key. And then we check their understanding by presenting them with a problem to solve. Yes, and as well as looking at the benefits of ciphers, we also investigate the vulnerabilities and why the ciphers need to keep evolving in complexity. So this next one, brute force in action, uses a program that tries all 26 possible rotations to break the code, and the students then can just see exactly how easy it is to break that code. So a program that automatically uses all of the different keys, they can see that that was with the click of a button, and one of these keys is going to give us a message, which is the secret location, meet at the bus stop at 7. So and the key that decrypts this message is 5. So it's a very simple way to show how easy it might be to crack those codes. As the ciphers become more complicated, students are required to develop their problem-solving skills. So this first example introduces the mixed substitution cipher, where letters are encrypted randomly. And they soon discover that because the length of the words don't change, that they can start to decrypt the messages from their knowledge of the most common letters and words in English and what those encrypted words would look like. The example I can show you here is starting to get these windows under control. We can see here that they're given a song, and song lyrics usually have a lot of repeated words. Can you use your knowledge of common letters, short words, and words with apostrophes to decrypt the lyrics? So they have a look at the letters. The most frequent letter up here was H, and if we look at the table, that possibly is an E, a T, or an A. And then they start to do their problem solving by putting some of those letters in here. So after an apostrophe possibly is a T. So if we put X as a T, and for all you New Zealanders, you probably know which song this is. S goes to, I think, was D. So they can play around with that until they start to recognize the words that are coming down the bottom, and then they're just simply asked for the the song title. Then to make it more complex on the right here, you can see that we look at a Vignere cipher where the encrypted letters change each time the original appears in the message. So this method involves using positions of the letters in the alphabet and a rotating key. I won't go into it, but I think I have an example here as well, where you can see if you tried the key, it asks you to use the word swim. Try this key, and they are asked to investigate the encrypted message to see, you can quickly see that A, which is an I, is not the same as that A, which is a W. So they can see the effectiveness of the Vignere cipher automatically after that. And then they're asked to do a problem. They're stepped through the process in these slides of how to use the Vignere cipher with the rotating key to be able to work out the plain text from an encrypted message.
And then we build on that one, we're introducing another algorithm. So we look at something called XOR algorithm. And in this one, it's an example of a very secure algorithm, and it builds on that knowledge of data representation. So basically, if you look at the example that Jen has up there, we take the binary of a letter, and then we can encrypt that with a key. And then what happens is we compare the two digits. And if the digits are the same, then the XOR becomes a 0. If they're different, it becomes a 1. And then the encrypted XOR of that is well, it depends if you're encrypting or decrypting, but the XOR of that is actually then the binary representation for, like in this example, the letter K. It is, we look at how it's extremely secure, but in practice, it's very impractical to implement. But how XOR actually underpins like the cryptographic algorithms we use today with when we get like a one-time password, a timed one-time password, that's part of our multi-factor authentication process. So we've stepped them through very simple algorithms to more complex, and then relating that complexity to the security within everyday lives.
And then following on from that, the last group of slides talks about how cryptography is used today to protect data. So students have the option of finding out the technical details. So I'll just show you, there's a slide here with a lot of text. It may or may not interest the students, but they can find out the technical details of something that they may have heard of in the past, or something that they're interested in. And then the last slide for those who are less inclined to, I think I need to click on, less inclined to read about the technical details of them, you can click through and a summarizer to show how important and widely used some of the methods are that we've discovered are in their everyday lives, and how it's important to know about these in terms of the applications and web applications that they're using currently.
If you just go back one slide, Jen.
Yeah.
One you were just showing previously.
Yep.
On that one, so we have things like they expand. So if you click on public key encryption, then they can find out more details, so they're not too text heavy, and then they can click through and discover more information. So that's what Jen was referring to.
Yeah. And links to other places to find more information if they're interested as well.
So again, there are onboarding webinars that show you exactly how to use Grok. So if you're interested, we're going to put up a link for registering for Grok. It's free, but this is just an example of our student dashboard. So you can upload a set of students, and then you see their progress as they work through. So green means that they've completed those Orange means they've tried and they're struggling. And if this was a live teacher dashboard, you can actually click through and you can see what problems they're struggling with. And then we have also got a live view, so you can see exactly what students are working on, like in the classroom. Or again, I love it. I've had teachers say, when I'm at home, because I've had COVID and I've assigned Grok work to do, I can actually monitor their progress from home, and they can't just not work just because they say, oh, I had a reliever and I didn't understand what to do. So it's Grok supports you in the classroom in many different ways.
Our final slide is just if you'd like to look at this course in more depth and register as a teacher, you can go to this. You can also Google Grok Academy, or you can go use that QR code and log in, and obviously it's free, and look at those courses again, and so perhaps look at some of the other courses that you might be able to use with your students as well.
And I'll just say that, and Sarah, you can come on, but once you register, there is a verification process, because we actually make sure that teachers are actually teachers, because we value privacy actually of the student data that's uploaded, but also because cheeky students were deciding they could register as a teacher and try to get all the answers. So we do verify, and once you're verified, then you can manage students, upload, etc. And there are other things that we have around design thinking and web design, you name it, in digital technologies. Okay, we'll go to questions, Sarah, if there are any.
Thank you. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, please pop your questions into the Q&A. I just want to say thank you, ladies. That was amazing insight into a very comprehensive and very thorough program, I think, there for teachers and for students to actually introduce them to these areas. And just we're waiting to see if there are any questions. I've just got a couple of things that just popped into my head as I was watching the content. So would you say that if I was a beginner teacher in this context and I never taught things with cryptography before, would I need to know much about it in terms of teaching it, or would I be able to, because we know how time poor a lot of teachers are, and we might have specialists in certain areas. It might be the first time I'm going to teach in this space. Would I be able to just get the students to really just work through your course and they should have a really good solid understanding? Or do you think I need to have a little bit of understanding there myself?
No, with all of our Grok courses, we actually realize, because we're former teachers, all of us, we realize teachers are time poor, and that people, especially in the digital technology space or cryptography, they might not have that background. So we don't assume that a teacher has that knowledge. A thing you might want to do is just our Kayako guides are PDFs, so you can just print that out, have a read through it to get an idea of the sequence, and any additional activities you might pull in. But then you can assign the students the work, and they can go on it independently. And again, if they're stuck, you've always got a way to help them by looking at your own solutions. And I know in the past, when Grok, I used Grok in my classroom, and I used it as my own professional learning as well. When they introduce a new course, and I'd look through, and it's at the level that you can be a teacher and student at the same time, but you don't have to have the expertise.
I just wanted to add to that. I came to teach digital technologies from an out of field scope, and there were a variety of different ways you can do it. Is to keep, a couple of slides ahead, or, do the modules beforehand. But one of the most important things, I think, was the relationships that you developed with the students in your class, in that if you didn't know the answer to something, you were quite happy to say, okay, who knows the answer to this question? And that's something, once you develop that with your students, I think it's a really powerful way to know that, you don't have to know everything to be able to teach these concepts as well.
Awesome, thank you. Another quick question is, I noticed that I really love the idea. You've got lots of different ways of representing the learning. So students can watch videos, you've got interactive activities that they can do. I did notice that quite a lot of it is quite text rich. So I was just, is there a way to support those students who may struggle with, say, reading? Because we still have students who do struggle with literacy. Is there anything that can help and support those students potentially?
Not in this, well, I was going to say in this particular course, but we have taken that on board. In many of our Grok courses, we have narrations as well. So students can click with our videos. There's always a transcript, and they can hear the video. In our cryptography course, we don't have everything recorded as a narration, but we have had that feedback, and we are looking at phase 2 improvements to bring in some things. The other thing in all of our courses, what we're in Sydney right now, looking at our next phases of Grok and how we can improve learning. And we're looking at more things around animations and getting rid of some of the text heaviness, because programming digital technologies can be text heavy. So we are actually exploring those ways to improve our whole interface for learners. Yep.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Costa. Really cool to know. And I really noticed that obviously these are very comprehensive resources, particularly for I noticed that you mentioned they're from year 6 upwards. Now I know that many primary teachers, maybe not in cryptography, but in other areas, would love to have supportive resources for younger students. Do you have anything for younger, or is it primarily for year 6 upwards?
There are a variety of unplugged activities available from the platform as well for the younger students. But again, that's one of the areas of development, that's an area of need. There are certainly some great cyber activities, some cards in the course that's there. And there's some cards also available to download from the website that are suitable for 3-4 age levels. Is that the right term?
Yes.
So there's just a variety of unplugged things at the moment, but it is a work in progress. There is a data science course, I think, on the horizon.
But we also have so we do have the information security one is specifically for younger students, where we've got way more a lot of video content that they listen to. It's not as text heavy, but within the programming, like if students are wanting to be introduced to programming, we've got Blockly based coding,
awesome.
Things with microbits, all of that, as well as we've got some other unplugged activities, and we are growing more in this area as we speak. We are authoring some more content for more primary, but definitely we do have content for primary and intermediate on there. Yes,
that's fantastic. That's really great to know. Especially, I was just thinking of different teachers and their different backgrounds, and obviously they're amazing resources here. Let's try and implement and use them for as many different learners as we can do, potentially. We do have a statement from one of our attendees today, who's saying it's not a question, but they want to point out that they've recently tried Grok for the web comp learning to code in HTML and CSS, and they just wanted to say that the course was so easy to administer, great pace, and lots of help for students and themselves. So yeah,
Julie had a lot to do with that.
I would say that does my heart. Whoever said that, my heart really good today, because I've been involved heavily in working hard on that web comp to improve it and make it easier and more supportive. That's been one of my other pet projects at the moment. So thank you.
Fantastic. And that's it for today. That's the questions and there's some bits and pieces. So thank you very, very much for obviously coming on here today and talking to us about, this is just one module. You've got many, many amazing modules that are there to help and support Kayako and Akōnga across Aotearoa as well. So just hoping that people will jump on to Grok and go and explore a little bit and see what's there to help and support them with their own teaching practice and have those really innovative classrooms, which is going to be amazing. And thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules that you guys have. I know you're going to be running off to do other things now, but yeah, for coming here and being part of our TENS webinars for this month as well.
Thank you for having us.
You are more than welcome. So today I'm just going to advise people that please, if you have watched the webinar today, whether it is live or whether it's recorded, we really love your feedback at TENS. You can either scan the QR code or there is the bit.ly link here that you can have a look at. This feedback helps us at TENS to understand what you appreciate about our webinars and our PLD opportunities, but also gives you a chance to give us feedback on other opportunities that you may feel are important to you in your own practice. So that feedback form is there for you to fill in. Like we said at the very beginning of the webinar as well, we have our TENS YouTube channel. Give us a couple of days and the YouTube channel will be up and live, or the video will be on the channel itself, and we will endeavour to pop any links that the lovely ladies send through to us as well, so that you can actually share that content with you as well, so that you've got it in the future as you need it. And there are lots and lots of other informative webinars from lots of different people and organisations on the TENS YouTube channel. They are there just to help and support you, and they're free for everybody to have a look at. So just a really quick plug for next month in July, we have the amazing Michael Moore from St Peter's in Cambridge, who is a specialist in materials technology and product design. And so he's going to be coming on to share some of the different designs and ideas and project contexts that they have used in their school, particularly in that materials and product design space. So please, you're more than welcome to register, and we'd love to see you for next month's webinar too. And that's the end of today's session for our TENS webinar for this month. We will complete the webinar with our final karakia. Kia mato katoa. Kua moto mato ia mato mahi. Ia mato kaupapahuki. Arahina mato ki koe. Mato ia mato hei papa. Kia whakatapua. Mato ki ngā kaupapa me ngā mea e whakapono. Manakitia mai mato. Kia ora everybody. Kia kite.